So that is what we're doing today. And I want to talk about how you actually want the prospect to say no instead of yes, and how that's actually going to help you book them faster. Because I've noticed a lot of hesitancy in challenging people or holding the frame or holding the authority when it comes to talking to people. You guys are scared to really dig into what matters because you're like, oh my God, what if this person ghosts me? What if this person leaves? What if they get triggered? All these things. And it's really hard to deal with a lot of emotion when it comes to that point, but I think that's to the point that you want to go to. You need to be able to be the person that can handle that amount of emotion, again, to ground the person, like we've talked about before, instead of becoming a chaos or a chaotic mess with them. So let's talk about closing the deal. So biggest fears in the DMs I've noticed is that if you push too hard, they're going to say no or they're going to ghost. Or if they say no, it seems like the conversation is over. Should I let them go? If they get triggered, your coach might see the conversation and cut you off or tell you to back off the DMs and all these things. All of these are valid fears. If your coach sees a mistake in the DMs and he immediately or he or she immediately takes that as a sign to get you out of the DMs, I would say that's a red flag in a coach. A good coach should always walk you through and hear what you went through to see how do I improve this in my setter or what actually happened that I don't have context of. If someone says a straight no, like, no, I'm not looking to buy anything, yes, we take that as like, okay, cool. We're not going to sound ding that nobody wants, right? Like, you guys know when we send a message and say like, hey, are you just here for the content or looking to do this thing? And they're like, just here for the content, we leave them alone. But if somebody's giving you like, no, but I think this, or no, but this is what happened, or no, but this is this, like there's always like a little bit of a but or something else behind it that you can feel is there, it does not mean the conversation is over. Not every no is actually an end to the conversation. And if you push too hard and they tend to say no or they tend to ghost, that is actually the biggest thing that can bring back a prospect. So Renee actually had this where someone ghosted him and we pushed a couple of emotional or buttons that pressed a few pain points and they came back because that no triggered enough pain for us to see, okay, what pain points can we hit, and it makes them come back. So your biggest fears are actually your biggest leverage points. Because if your coach gets triggered by something that happened in the DMs, then it tells you that you might not be in the right company or that you need to work on something with your coach. It reveals a weak spot in the team. If they say no in a conversation, it actually allows you to have more pain points. And when you believe these fears, instead of looking at what I just said, you're going to ask weak questions. You're going to get weak answers because the prospect is always going to mirror your energy. And that means you're going to have a weak booking rate. Less booking calls, less closes. Does that make sense? Cool. So going through that is that when you're asking weak questions, when you have weak answers, and when you have that's supposed to be a weak booking rate, you're going to avoid taking authority. You're going to start coaching in the DMs to make up for authority because now you're like, oh, this person doesn't take me seriously. How can I give them more value so that they can book with me? And you're going to start coaching them and telling them this and telling them that. And remember, we never want to coach in the DMs. That is not our place. If we give somebody the solution, which you're not even the coach, you don't even have the power to be giving solutions in the DMs. But when you start giving quote unquote solutions, the prospect doesn't see any reason to book anymore because they're like, oh, I just have something to work on. Great, right? Or you soften questions into vague, easy to ignore questions. So instead of asking what you want to ask, you're like, oh, this is a good pain point to dig into. But if I push too hard, they're going to say no, they're going to ghost me. And you soften that question into something vague, something that they can easily ignore. They will ignore it. The prospect is always going to copy the energy that you put out in the DMs. And then last but not least is that a lot of us, including myself, I'll give an example about what happened yesterday, is that we treat no's as personal rejections. Yesterday, I was on a call with this girl that was looking for a setting position. I was like, well, I can train you up and I can do this and all this. Just like, a week, 2 weeks worth of training. But she told me that she was a mom of four and her husband were in debt and they were trying to live paycheck to paycheck and all these things. And she had an offer that she was working on. She just didn't have the training. So I was like, I can take you under my wing for a month. I'll charge you this amount, but you don't have to pay until after you make your first few commissions. I can make this work for you, because I was very empathetic to her situation, all these things. And then she was like, actually, I don't want to pay for anything that, any training that has to be paid for, I don't want to pay for it. And like in that moment, I was like, oh shoot, like that was towards me. I felt like that rejection was towards me itself. And then we hopped off the call. I was like, okay, cool. Like, let me know if I can help in the future then, because I really can't help you. I have people that actually are in here and are prioritizing this that I would rather focus on, like you guys. So it's like, okay, cool. So I let her go. And then it was this morning that I realized, like, that no wasn't towards me. Like, she's in the scarcity mode. She's in this lack energy from everything that she's going through with her family. And I'm very empathetic towards that. And she made her decision. Doesn't impact me. If it impacts her, it's no longer my concern because it's her life, so it's not personal. When somebody says no in the DMs and you take it to heart, your reaction is going to be emotional. And remember that the only emotion we want is from their side, their pain points. We're supposed to be the tree in the ground that is guiding them. We're supposed to be grounded energy that is guiding that chaotic energy. So we can't take it as personal rejections. And this is what happens when you start believing all these fears in the DMs of, if I push too hard, if they say no, if my coach sees this, and you hold back from the skill set that you know you have. So what happens when we get people to say yes? Here's the thing. Forcing a yes for the sake of getting a yes out of the prospect creates basic questions that we don't want. The only basic questions I ask in the DMs is at the beginning of a conversation when I'm trying to get context. And I actually made a video on this yesterday for a friend of mine, and I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys today. But during stage 2, you guys know that we're asking for context, like how much do you weigh? How much is the business bringing in? How long have you been stuck in this problem? Just simple, not even basic. They're just simple questions so we can understand the prospect. But now, when you're like, how do I get this person to say yes, just so that they can say yes and, create more like compliance and authority, we're asking basic sales questions. Is this, and this a priority? Well, yeah, they've been talking to you in the DMs for 3 days about this. Of course it's a priority. This is a basic question to get them to say yes. From 1 to 10, is this important? Or do you think this is important for your kids and your wife and your husband? Well, yeah, they were just talking to you for 3 days about this. Of course they're going to say yes. Like, if you already know the answer to it and you're forcing them to say yes, it doesn't create more trust. It doesn't. It creates this thing of like forcing them into a corner of saying yes. Like, you guys know the people that come up to your door and they're trying to sell you, I don't know, a water filter. Do you drink water? Well, yeah. Do you like clean water? Well, yeah. Like, would you rather have cleaner water? Like, you have no option but to say yes, but it's like a forced yes into a corner. You don't feel more trust in the conversation with this person. You're like, oh my God, I just want to get out of here, but all I have to do is say yes to all these questions to build quote unquote connection. That's not connection. Are you not serious about this? Well, I've been standing here talking to you about my problems for 3 days. Of course I'm serious about this. Now, this is not the same thing as trying to create awareness. So if somebody's not aware of something, take this DM, does not have to do with this. This DM is separate. I should have drawn a line here. This DM is an example of me trying to create awareness for a prospect where I was trying to get her to see that it was uncomfortable, but she didn't know it yet. So I said, do you think it's going to be an uncomfortable path? And she said, yes. This yes is different because it's creating awareness, which means it's creating trust. If we had already talked about her being uncomfortable and I ask this again for trust, that's when it breaks trust. But when I'm creating awareness for the first time and I'm getting that yes, that creates trust. If I'm forcing a yes of something that we both already know, doesn't create trust. If I'm getting a yes of something that we're just becoming aware of now, just like me, I didn't know if she was going to say yes or no. I just wanted her to be aware of it because I didn't think she knew, which she didn't. So then she elaborated. Do you guys see the difference between a forced yes and an awareness yes? Does that make sense? Sort of. You guys can put it in the chat or mute yourselves. Thumbs up. Good.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I love that yes. Great. That was a very confident yes. Cool. So a forced yes is never going to build trust and connection the way that an awareness yes is. So you trying to get them to say yes towards, I see a lot of people doing this when they're about to book a call. Is this a priority for you? Are you not serious about this? That doesn't create trust. That just creates them into a forced corner. So what is the opposite of a yes? It's a no. I have learned that getting people to say no faster creates more trust than forcing a yes out of somebody. No is not a rejection. No is not the end of a conversation. And no is not implying anything. Unless they say very strictly, I am only here for the content and I don't want to buy from you, I let them go. You guys know this. But if someone's telling me, no, that's not how I feel, no, I'm working on this instead, no, I think I can do it by myself, to me, that's not rejection. But because you're assuming it's rejection, it becomes rejection. All no is doing is creating an assumption for you. And the more assumptions that you make, the more miscommunication there's going to be. How many of you guys have miscommunicated with somebody from assuming something that they said? Everybody probably has. You assume this thing, then you go and do the other thing, and then this person's like, why did you do that? Oh, because I assumed you meant this. No, I meant this. And now they get mad, and then you get upset, and you guys know the whole deal. It's happened to everybody. Don't assume anything about a no. What does a no actually do in a conversation? Because you guys, we've talked about this, don't assume, but what does it actually do? Let's understand the behind the scenes of what happens when somebody says no. When somebody says no, subconsciously what they're doing or what that no is doing is creating autonomy for the lead. When somebody says no, they feel like they're in control. They feel like this side of relief. Obviously, it's not like this huge aha moment when somebody says no, but subconsciously they're like, okay, great, this person's not forcing me to say yes. Like, I don't feel cornered into a corner where I have to say yes and agree to everything to be sold. They're like, I have a little bit more control in this conversation. You're always going to be the authority, but that doesn't mean we want to put the other person down all the way where they don't have any power. What we're doing in a DM conversation is empowering somebody to step up, change their problem, and do that through booking a call where they can commit to a program and change their lives. That requires empowerment. The entire sales process is a process of empowering somebody. So when somebody says, no, I don't feel this way, I feel this way, it gives them a little bit more autonomy, independence to think for themselves. And when somebody thinks for themselves, they're a little bit more opinionated and they can speak freely and they can speak about their pain and their feelings and their emotions. And guess what? That is what we want inside of a DM conversation. I don't want somebody that's giving me one-word answers. Yes, I'm in pain. This is my problem. Yes, like that doesn't give me anything. But when somebody can speak freely and feels that freedom to speak freely, it helps you out so much. So that is what a no does. It allows the person to feel a little bit more autonomy. Number 2, it gives them a pause to think. Once they've said no, they don't feel like they're in a rush to say yes, because now they're not thinking, right? And so when somebody's not thinking, it's happened maybe to all of you guys, or you've seen it happen somewhere, where you're just like you're getting bombarded with questions. You have to say yes to this thing. At the end, you make a decision that you didn't even think through. And now you're hesitating, you're doubting, you ask for a refund, you ask to back out, all these things, even if it was the right decision. That's why people that book calls may not show up, or may not buy, or may ask for refunds, or may cancel, or ghost you. Because they felt forced to say yes and agree to, yeah, I feel a 10 out of this. Yeah, this is a priority. Yes. And they just want to get out of that that it doesn't give them a pause, it doesn't give them air to breathe, and they just make decisions for the sake of making them because you put them in this sort of like manipulation loop. But when somebody has the ability to say no in a conversation without you getting triggered, it gives them a pause to think and a space to just clear the air. So they're like, they say no to something, and what happens when somebody gets a no? Oh my God, I'm rejected. And then you get triggered, and then you start defending yourself. But then they see that you're not doing that, and you're holding your ground, and you welcome the no's. And that person has more freedom to, again, have the independence to think and speak freely. Which then leads to number 3. They're like, wow, this person didn't get triggered when I said no. Right? Like, how many of our parents, friends, teachers just tell us off when we say no to something? So many of them. But then you hold the space to not get triggered. You don't react to them saying no. Now they see this DM conversation as a safe space to keep talking, which is an invitation for them to keep talking, which is what we want from the person. We want them to continue telling us about their problems and their desires and their pain and how long they've been doing this and how long they've been doing that. That is what happens when we hold space for somebody to say no without us taking it personally. And number 4, once they see that, it's where they can really say, okay, I can actually start a conversation here. This is where the real conversation starts. Up until this point, they're testing the waters. They've never met you before. They've never talked to you before. And you expect them to be forced into yeses and give you their entire life story. That's not going to happen all the time. But when you hold that space for a person and they see, oh wow, this person's really grounded and they're guiding me through this and they're allowing me to express myself freely, now the real conversation can start about their pain points and their problems and the consequences, and you're going to get more out of that lead than trying to force them into a corner of yeses. Does that make sense? Sort of. Cool. So, a no, actually, that's supposed to say protect. I don't know. I was typing with my cat like next to me, so all my arms were like this. So, anyways, no, a no actually protects you. It lets the prospect engage without feeling cornered into a decision, like I said. So now they're not feeling like they're cornered. They're feeling like they have the independence to actually make a decision for themselves. And so when they book a call, they're less likely to ghost you. They're less likely to no-show. They're less likely to not book the link with the link because they didn't feel cornered. They actually engaged with full autonomy and the freedom to just speak freely. It gives them the example of control. Okay, this is not manipulation. So you guys know when what was the example I had here about the kid? I don't know, I was thinking of something of like when your parents give you like the idea of you wanting to do something for your own good, and then you take action yourself, you feel a little bit more in control than your parents forcing you to brush your teeth, for example, or doing something. But then they give you like this space of like, yeah, do you want to do this or this? And then you get to pick your activity. You feel like you're a little bit more in control, but again, it's for your own good because we're never using this to manipulate somebody. It slows down the conversation. You guys know that when we slow down the conversation and we're just not like texting back and forth really fast, a lot of anxiety, a lot of like, what do I say now? I'm just going to say this, I'm going to say that. But we slow down the conversation and we allow them to say no. And we allow ourselves to challenge them. And then they can say this freely. And then we can challenge them freely. It prevents them from rushing into agreements to leave the conversation. This is where a prospect will say, yeah, I'll hit you up next week, and then they never hit you up. Like, yeah, let's touch base next week, and then they never do. They just want to get out of a conversation that feels suffocating, where they're not allowed to speak freely. They feel like they're being forced into a decision, and there's no room for them to actually speak with like a safe space to open up. So if we can slow down a conversation, and this is where presence also comes in, we slow down, we're present in what they're saying, we're present in what we're asking, how we're challenging them, how we're reacting, how they're reacting, how we're being grounded. It prevents any rushing or mistakes or silly things that you wouldn't do otherwise. And then last but not least, it gives you real information, because this is where the objections are actually going to come out. How many of you feel like when somebody's like, I've hopped on so many sales calls because I still invest in myself and in programs. And the last sales call I hopped on, it was for like this whole sleep hormone balancing, super, you know, what's it called? Top tier health program, just because I just needed to take care of myself a few weeks ago. And this girl was so robotic that I didn't feel the need to tell her what was actually going on. I was like, yeah, I'm not sleeping. Yeah, this is my energy levels. Yeah, this is my, activity at the gym. I was giving her like enough pain points, I guess, but I didn't feel the need to actually open up because it was all so surface level. She was just forcing me into yeses, and I was like, I don't want with this. No. Even if it worked, like this is not something I feel safe talking about, and I want somebody that actually gives me the space to let me talk about everything I'm going through. Versus somebody that's like, no, like tell me what's going on. Do you like this? No. Now I feel with that no, I feel more safe to talk about what I want and don't want, which tells you, the setter, the salesperson, how to handle all of the pain points, and it brings out the real objections. Instead of saying, yeah, I just don't have any money, now I feel safe to say, no, this is what's going on. I don't know if this is going to work for me. I've been burned in different programs before, and this is what I'm thinking. People actually want to give you their objections. They do. But they just don't feel like this is the right space to do so unless you create that space for them. So they're going to create some excuse to politely disappear because they just don't want to engage in this conversation anymore. But when you create that space for them to say no, for them to actually give their pain points without you getting triggered, you taking it personally like everybody else in their life does, they will actually start opening up. Cool. So you have to challenge them and step up. I think the biggest misconception is that being in an authority position, you have to be really hard on them and like push them and all these things. An authority position isn't about being harsh. It's about willing to ask questions that could get you a no. Because the questions that get you no's are the only questions that give you real answers. Nobody's ever going to fake a no. If they want something, they'll say yes. Yeah, exactly, Amy. Creating a comfortable environment for them is important. But nobody ever wants to say no to something they do want. They're always going to say, yeah, like, yeah, I want that. Yeah, I want that. Yeah, I want that. Unless you're a people pleaser, which is a different story. But that doesn't exist a lot in DM conversations. Usually when you're not face to face to somebody, they'll usually tell you what they want, right? But when you create the environment for them to say no, that means you've created the right space for them to give you an authentic answer. You have to remember that the prospect is always going to mirror your energy, which means if you're hesitant, if you're insecure, if you're chaotic, if you're taking everything personal, they're going to do the exact same thing, or they're going to say, no, I don't like this energy, and they're going to remove themselves from the conversation. This happened to me early on in conversations. You guys know that Nick, my coach, has a very conscious audience. Like they're very spiritual, conscious, business-wise, etc. It's especially the people making like 50K, 100K months in their business. So when I'm talking to them, I used to get really nervous and get like, a little bit emotional about certain things that they would say, and I would get really confused, and they would be like, wow, this person's consciousness is actually lower than mine, and they're not creating the energy to guide me to something more grounded than where I am, so I'm going to leave. I think that's the worst case scenario, when you're less grounded than the person that you're talking to. You're supposed to be guiding them, but you're in this worse energy than they are. They're going to leave because you're not somebody that can guide them. You need to be able to step up and create that energy where they're like, oh, I want to mirror that energy. They don't want to mirror this. They're already stuck in this low position. Why would they want to go even lower? They want to mirror this. And again, you don't have to be the perfect person. You don't have to have all the results, everything that they're looking for, all the answers and transformations that they want to be there. You just have to understand that you're the authority in the conversation. You can hold space, and you're not taking everything personal, which is more than a lot of people can do. That's it. It's just controlling that emotional aspect where we tend to take everything personal because our ego feels a little bit safer when it's about us. But it's not. It's always going to be about them. And if we can mirror that, if they can feel that, they're going to be a little bit more authentic in the DMs to open up. So last but not least is just think about a question that could actually get you a no in the DMs. And all these questions I wrote, these 2 examples I came up with, it's almost like the opposite of the yes examples, but you're actually, this is a really good exercise for you to say, be a little bit more direct than you usually would, and stop avoiding what you actually want to ask. Because when you avoid what you want to ask, they're going to feel that avoidance and they're going to start avoiding what they want to say. So if I say, do you want to stay 40 pounds overweight? They're going to say no. Great. That gave you or me permission to be more direct and be more authentic, which gave them permission to say no, which gives them the feeling of control and autonomy and safety to keep talking. Do you think what you've been doing for the past 5 years is going to change anything? No. It gave them permission to say no. You're almost like forcing a no out of them for the sake of them feeling safe. Let them say no so that they can get a taste of what they're able to say in a conversation. They're like, oh, I can say no, so now I can try saying no to this and no to that, and then expressing my opinion more. So when somebody tells me, this has happened all the time, so you guys know we were talking about labels last week, like saying, it sounds like this is happening and that's happening and this is happening, just to create more authority. If somebody says, actually, no, I think this is more of like what I feel, perfect. They corrected me and now I actually have a good idea of what they're feeling because apparently I got it wrong, which is totally okay, by the way. I gave them the ability to say no, which now creates both, we're on the same chapter now. It didn't force them into a yes. They disagreed with me. Perfect. So now we're both on the same chapter. Now they have the freedom to say no, and now we can both move forward with more confidence and more freedom to speak, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it's a little bit more intentional than just keeping it's not even a flow, it's like a fake flow of yeses and sales questions like, is this what you want? Is this a priority for you? Okay, let's book a call. Why do you not want to book a call? And now you're just forcing them into a state of yes, that's not really authentic. So when they disagree with you, when somebody disagrees with me, I'm like, perfect. Now you've told me what you actually feel. You feel the confidence to say no more, which helps me. And now we can both move forward because now we're both on the same chapter. Ta-da. Does that make sense? Comments, questions, concerns? No questions? We're good? Okay. Should I pull up some DMs? Does anybody have DMs that they want to pull up? Cool. Go. If nobody has DMs that they want to pull up, I'm going to pull up a few so we can actually go through some of them live. Whoa. No, don't do that. I did stop sharing. Hold on. Go back. Okay. Let's see who we have here. Perfect. So, great example of an introduction message. We send the introduction voice message. It's our same one. Hey, are you just here for the content or looking to do business? I'll play it for anybody that doesn't have it already. Whoa, you guys can't see my screen. Can you? Maybe.
It is black right now.
Hold on. Ta-da. When you're more direct, it gives them a chance to do the same. Could you more be honest, not be direct? Yeah, 100%. So when you're more direct, they're like, oh, this person's actually direct. And then you guys are not both beating around the bush, which a lot of DM conversations and setters do, which is how you set yourself apart from other people. So let me play this initial DM conversation just so.
Hello, miss. I just wanted to shoot you a message. I saw that you recently followed me, so I wanted to say thank you. I wanted to send an audio message first so that you know it's not, freaking AI automated bullshit that everybody else is doing. It's a real person, I promise. Just curious, though, what brought you to my page? You just here for the content? Are you looking to grow the business? How can I support you?
So we recently changed our approach to audio messages because a lot of people were being hesitant about AI nowadays. So you guys can see myself pinned in Nick's profile. So if I go to Nick's profile, everything I need is in here. The form, obviously we talk a little bit, but like the form, masterclass, his resources, so anything I need is automatically in here, including these two audio messages. So if I'm sending an initial message, I'm just gonna click forward. I don't think you can do it here, but on my phone, I click forward and I forward it to any new followers. It doesn't say forwarded. You guys can see it says you forwarded message here. It doesn't say forwarded in the iPhone, which is where everybody texts, so I'm not too worried about that. She sends me an audio message saying, hey, I was here for the content, but this is what I'm struggling with my business, looking to grow my business, etc., etc. So anyways, I matched her humor because she was talking about, haha, I didn't know you could do automated AI audio messages. And I said, well, I haven't even found a way to do that, so not automated. And then I'm asking for consent, obviously, as a first message, like we always do. She says, sure. Cool. You guys tell me, what do I say here? Simple. I don't know anything about her, so what should I start by? What should I dig into first? Cheering out for first. Well, she already
Getting
told me.
context.
Let me play the audio message. So she already told me, Amy, so let me.
Yeah, I saw the message. I was like, what are they doing with automated voice messages these days? Yeah, I really liked her content. I don't know how I stumbled upon it, but I really like it. Yeah, I'm definitely trying to grow my business. I'm kind of in a phase of like discovering my voice and how to show up online, and I still feel so cringe and not myself. And I still had a hard time really trying to really conversions. Like I've started multiple businesses, and when I am like high energy and high vibe, like they do well, but then like the deepening of going deep and creating sustainable, consistent income has been the phase I've been in for a while.
Okay, so she just told me she has multiple businesses. She struggles with creating consistent income and something else, yada, yada, yada. What is the main thing I need to know in order to help her grow a business right now?
I don't know, maybe
What has she been
like
what has she been doing so far that's making her being consistent in income?
Okay, Pearl.
Sorry.
No, you're good. No, I like it.
that's exactly what I was gonna say.
Okay, same
What are
thing
you
as
trying
Renee.
so far that is not working out, or what have you been trying so far pretty much?
Okay, and then Amy said mainly wants more confidence in herself and the business. Where is she right now that she believes isn't what she wants? I'd go along those lines. Okay, thank you, Yahya. Okay, those are amazing questions, and I want to ask all of them, but do I even know what business I'm helping her with?
No.
Okay, that would be great to know.
I,
So,
s-
yeah,
I
so
searched her profile and she does like a religion thing. I don't know.
a religion thing. Again, not we don't want to assume, and she said she has multiple businesses, so I don't know which one she needs help with. So if she tells me she sells cookies or she does religion online or she does women empowerment or she does business coaching, those are all very different types of incomes. All of your questions are amazing, but they're not going to help me unless I know where I'm starting. So remember, we want to start with context. That's step number 2. Step number 1, beautiful. We created a little bit of rapport. Ha ha ha, this is not automated. Consent. Second phase is context. Amazing. tell me a little bit more about the business. What's the offer? Business, I know you said you had multiple. So what are we currently working with? What's the offer? Jesus. Yeah, don't assume. When you assume, you lose. Yeah, and so like all of your questions are amazing and she can answer them, but even if she answered about like where she's lacking confidence or the income or what's keeping her stuck, I still don't know which business it's referring to or what she's referring to, which is going to create more confusion. This used to happen to me a lot in the DMs. So they would tell me something at the very beginning, drop all this paragraph, and before I got clear on the basic things, on the very simple things, I would ask about more complicated things, and then I would have to go all the way back to the basic messages. And it was like we were kind of confused going back and forth. So we want to start from top to bottom. Give me all the simple things. How much is the business making? How much money are you bringing in? These things. And then I can dig and say, okay, I'm pinpointing it back to what you said now, because I have a foundation. Same thing with fitness. How much do you weigh? How much do you want to lose? How long have you been struggling with this? Great. Now I can go back to the diet, the things that you told me before. Otherwise, you're going to get yourself into this like ball of yarn where you're going back and forth between like what you said, what they said, and then Dora, if that makes any sense. Very confusing. Wait to find a way. Yeah. I'm also matching her personality. Like she's like, oh my God, since when do you guys do automated messages? And I'm like, haven't found a way to do that, but it's not AI. So yeah, it's super cool to match people's energy sometimes. Obviously, I stay in Nick's personality. If somebody's sending me a bunch of heart emojis, I'm not going to send them a bunch of heart emojis because it's not on brand. But it's nice to match people's humor. You don't always have to be a super strict, person in there. All right, same thing. My personal brand. Okay, that's what I'm going to guess that says personal brand, but I'm going to ask too. So same thing here. You guys see how I'm gonna match his energy? He's a dude. He's not giving me exclamation marks or audio messages. So I'm gonna say cool instead of amazing exclamation mark. Cool. Tell me a little bit about the biz. What personal brand are we looking to build? What's the offer? We usually don't want to ask two questions in the same message, but I'm asking the same question two different ways so that he can get a better idea of what I'm asking. Because he started with personal brand. I want to transition into his offer. So I'm kind of blending these two so he can get a good idea of what answer I'm trying to get out of him. But we never want to ask two completely different questions in a message. What brand are you looking to build? How much money are you making? We don't want to put that in the same message. Or what's the goal with losing weight? Where are you at right now? Two completely different messages. Simple. Yeah. Mix of professional and mix of real. That's the perfect way of saying it. Cool. I think that's everyone that's replied so far. Does that make sense for starting messages with people? Let me follow up with this one girl really quickly. Ping. Actually, I'm gonna go with like a... She's a hard one. I've been talking to her for a few months. She said she was okay, then she came back, and now she said no to the call. Amazing. Now we have a lot of freedom to go through more stuff. And then she finally answered me after ghosting me. And then I put this in the Discord chat as well, but I sent her this message telling her I appreciate the transparency without disappearing or ghosting me so that she would keep replying to me. So anyways, another great example of that. Cool. Okay. If there are no more questions about, that's actually a really great example of no's. So just really quickly, she said, Do you guys want me to play this? Or do you want me to summarize it?
Play it.
What's up? Okay, so no issue with the link. I definitely opened it and then I was like, oh fuck, do I really need like another person trying to tell me? Or do I need to like dive deeper into my own self, which is what I preach to all of my girls in my program. And so, you know, with the resources I currently have at my disposal, I'm like, girl, you just need to work harder. I think that's really what it comes down to, work harder. So although I love everything you put out, it resonates with me so like on every level. I just am a little fearful of having like another opinion come in instead of just trying to make fucking more money with what I currently have. So I hope that's understandable. And I mean, I guess what does it hurt to get on a conversation? But I do just want to share that fear with you that I already have so many inputs that I'm nervous about taking on one more.
I actually just caught two things that I didn't catch at the beginning when I first listened to this audio message. What's her main fear?
She's already had with somebody. She's already been with multiple people, right?
Well, she didn't say that. She just said she has a lot of inputs and opinions right now.
Um, well, I picked up that she believes that she needs to work harder. That's one of the things I picked up.
Okay, cool. So yeah, she's afraid of having more opinions, and she thinks she just needs to work harder.
Yeah.
So, and then she said at the very beginning, that's usually what I tell the girls inside of my program. So now my question goes to the hypocrisy of like, okay, so there are women in your program and you tell them to dive deeper. Why can't you be somebody in a program that also dives deeper into yourself? You're choosing one or the other, but you're telling me the people in your program do both. And that's not possible for you. That's the first thing that I caught that I didn't realize at the beginning. Second thing she said is that she has a lot of diversity. It's hard to pinpoint her direction, making it harder for her to choose. So it's causing her to become more fearful and back down as she seems more comfortable to 100%. So now I have to get her to realize that A, she also told me this in the past. She has all these opinions from people around her, like her family, that aren't working. And she needs to surround herself with people that are more like-minded. So those are two things I could have done, which I didn't. It's fine. We make mistakes. But do you guys see how I'm agreeing with her here? I'm not backing down from the no and saying, okay, that doesn't make sense or all these things. I'm just agreeing with her so she feels safe to keep saying no. And then I'm asking out of the, what did I ask? If you know you have to dive deeper and work hard into what you already have, why do you think you haven't gotten to the level that we want yet? I asked her this because she told me a few months ago the same thing, which I could have gone back and quoted her on, but I didn't. So anyways, moral of this audio message, she says no. I'm not going to take that personally. I agree with her. I agree. Like, if you have all these opinions, like, it is hard to grow a business. But at the same time, you haven't been growing a business in a long time, and you're telling me the people in your program do the same thing. They dive into themselves, but yet they have your guidance. So why is that not possible for you? And that is the end goal of what I want to get through to her in this conversation.
I'm curious. What did she say after this message? I'm just trying to be nosy.
Mm-hmm.
That one. I've definitely got some trauma uncovering to do. Oh, okay.
Okay, so now she's telling me why she's staying stuck. Wow, even me dissecting my own messages, telling me where I need to get better. But anyway, she's telling me why she's still stuck. And then this message here I sent in the Discord chat, but this is me just telling her that I appreciate the transparency without disappearing like a lot of people do. So this is me reinforcing the fact that she's not ghosting me, so she doesn't ghost me again. So then I put her in a position where she told me, I could have gone back and taken this little piece of the audio message that she told me, but I didn't, putting her in the same position. What would you tell the women in your DMs who are ready to move through out of that bullshit and start thriving? I quoted herself, but think they just need to work harder. That's a really great way to put somebody in their own position. They're like, well, this is what I'm going through. Then put them into a position of like, what would you tell your kids if they were going through this? Or what would you tell your wife if he was in the same position and he thinks that you needed permission to get better? Because when somebody has to make decisions for somebody else, they're more likely to be truthful than when they're making decisions for themselves, which is why I always like when we're in the situations, take them into a different scenario so that they can see what they're doing to themselves, if that makes sense. So, she admits she's still making a lot of mistakes, all these things. I think I messed up with this question, but we're not perfect. If it's
I like it.
You like it?
I like it. Yeah, if it's within you, what would help you bring it out of it? That's a pretty good way to challenge them.
Okay.
In my opinion, I mean, what don't you like about it? I'm just wondering.
I think just listening to this message again, this is like me dissecting it with you guys. I'm being able to be more present. I don't think it's a wrong question. There's no like wrong or right, but I think it could have gone through a different direction. Maybe. But it's not a bad direction. I think I see where my thought process was going. So if she does not answer this message, then I'm going to send her one of those accountability messages where I'm challenging her a little bit more. You're meeting her when she's making her feel more at ease with her, being open and honest, creating that comforting environment. I agree. I think the main thing with this girl that I also noticed in me is that if I can create like that environment of like, let's both talk about our opinions instead of me trying to sell, which I originally tried in my first conversation, but she left. So this is where I was like, if I create that environment where she feels like we're collaborating instead of fighting each other, she's going to feel a little bit more freedom to open up, which is what happened. So I think creating that environment of them feeling like we're working together as a team, we're not fighting each other to get a sale, is 100% a lot better for both of you. So yeah, a great conversation review. Helped me a lot, helped you guys a lot, I hope. So does anybody have any questions about this conversation specifically or anything we went over in the presentation? Dope. Cool. If anybody needs help, then you guys fill out your check-in form. 2 people did fill out their check-in form, so I'm going to help you guys and send over some resources for what you told me. I'm glad you're happy with it. It is a lot. I'll put the replay in the Discord chat when I'm done downloading it. But if anybody needs anything, let me know. Or fill out your check-in form so I can help you. And then I will see you guys on Monday. We're going to try Monday calls. I thought they would be fun. But let's experiment with that this week. I'll see you guys on Monday. The calendar is in the announcement section. You can see all of July. And reach out if you need anything from me. Okay, bye.